It's Small Business Week. It's time to celebrate, but many small business owners and managers feel more like burying their heads in their hands. Inflation, labor shortage, supply chain issues, there is no end to the challenges, but don't despair. We have some expert advice for you that will lift your spirits. Keep watching for a special interview with a chief economist of BDC. Hello, I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. Welcome to this special Small Business Week broadcast brought to you by OBJ and the Ottawa Board of Trade. The pandemic brought a new appreciation for small businesses in terms of what they contribute to our local economies and what they bring to our communities. At the same time, the pandemic accelerated trends and introduced new challenges such as inflation, labor shortages, and supply chain issues. All of that means small business owners and managers often feel overwhelmed by the challenges they face. But here's some good news. There are strategies and actions to overcome these challenges. And we have a special guest who brings a fresh new research and fresh new ideas for small businesses. It's my pleasure to welcome the chief economist of BDC. Here is Pierrre Cleroux. Welcome, Pierre.
Good morning, Mike.
It's great to be with you. We know it's a busy week. You're doing events all around the country, so we appreciate your time this morning.
Very pleased to be with you.
Yeah, so we're going to jump right into this, Pierre. I think one of the things that is foremost in a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners' plans is the general economic situation. We're seeing headlines every day about inflation. For example, we're waiting this morning, in fact, for an inflation announcement. Can you give us an update on what you're seeing in terms of the economy?
Well, the economy is slowing down because interest rates are increasing. You mentioned inflation. Inflation in Canada is quite high, and the Bank of Canada, to fight inflation, are increasing interest rate. With the idea is to slow down the economy in order to inflation to go down. So it's working so far, but it's not over. We believe interest rates will keep increasing. So the growth for the next 12 months will be quite close to zero growth, which will be different than what we have experienced over the last 18 months. But at the same time, we're not expecting a recession. So for the next 12 months, entrepreneurs should expect that growth is going to be flat, but still the economy will be still solid.
If we don't slip into a recession, that would be fantastic news. But it doesn't negate all of the challenges out there, Pierre. I named a few of them. BDC's done some new research. I think it's based on about 1,000 surveys of national entrepreneurs. Give us some sense of what that survey revealed.
Well, we know there's many challenges. You mentioned three of them at the beginning. And we wanted to understand if people who are increasing their productivity, they do better. And what we realized in our research, for the three challenges, inflation, shortage of labor, and the supply chain disruption, it's much easier for businesses who have improved their efficiency, or another way to say it, has a higher productivity level. So productivity seems to be a key to face these challenges.
And Pierre, I want to dig into the concept of productivity with you a little bit because I hear economists talking a lot about it, but then I don't know if that's translating to the right language that business owners and managers are using. So let's dig into productivity, and what are you actually saying when you say we need to improve our productivity?
Well, it's a measure of efficiency. So the productivity is a ratio of the revenue divided by the payroll that you have. The idea is to improve what we are doing already and to be as efficient as possible. So by improving our processes, by improving the way we're producing a product or service, that's basically we are increasing productivity. And in the past study, what we find is businesses are who are investing in technology or automation. they are able to increase their productivity.
There was an example in the survey of a pair in Calgary, I believe they were based, that were thinking about opening a coffee shop. And when they were going through the process of looking at opening this coffee shop, they realized they couldn't get the equipment to open it up. So they pivoted and said, "Well, wait a second. We don't want a coffee shop. We should do something different. We should import coffee equipment and related things." Um, and then I think what BDC helped them with, if I remember the story correctly, is reorganizing their warehouse. So BDC went in and did an analysis of where things were placed and how to reduce the amount of time it took to pull items and ship items. That the type of efficiency, Pierre, an example of what you're talking about here?
Exactly. And in this example, the owner was saying herself, they were, as they were growing, they were overwhelmed by the number of orders, and they just add more people to deal with it, but in the wrong way. So they became very efficient. They were hiring more people, but that didn't improve the delay to serve customer. So what they did is rethought the plan of the warehouse to make sure that the transaction, or when they look for a product, it was much more smooth and was much more well organized. Just doing that increased the efficiency drastically, and it reduced the number of days that they took to fill in an order. So you know often it's not a major thing. You don't have to reinvent your business. You just have to think about the pinpoint where inside your process it's blocking, and find a way to unblock this. So it's a question of organization, of processes. Often that's really will help a company to do that.
And I like that example because it touched on this labor challenge we're having, where often companies will think we just need to hire more, hire more, hire more. But as your survey and research pointed out, the labor shortage is going to be persistent for a number of years. So it shouldn't be a reaction of businesses to say, let's just always hire more people. It is to look to things like automation. I was hoping you could speak to automation and perhaps some of the examples of what you might define as automation to help businesses drive this productivity and efficiencies.
Yeah, technology has really evolved, and it's easier to use technology. It's cheaper, and it's not only for the manufacturing sector. When we talk about automation in the past, we often talk about the manufacturing sector. But today we can use automation in every part, in every sector of the economy. And two examples come to mind. In the previous research, we use this example, which I really like, is a small drugstore. The two owners are pharmacists, the husband and wife. And during the pandemic, they couldn't find people to help them. So they bought this pill sorting machine that prepare prescription by itself. And this is so they bought this machine, and they actually were able to continue to do what they have to do without hiring new people. And so this is a very small business. It's in the service sector. So you don't need to be a large business to invest in automation. You can be in every sector. Now this software that you can use to send directly your payment to your suppliers, for example. So technology doesn't replace people, but it replaces tasks. And if you replace a number of tasks, well, you limit your need for workers, and you become much more efficient. You actually make the job easier for your current employees.
And the other example that I think of, Pierre, sometimes we think of automation in terms of a warehouse or automation in terms of a retail store like that. There's automation in all parts of the business, even administration, for example. So sending out invoices, having clients submit their payment online directly. It could be even be order taking, where clients are playing a bigger role in the sales process, Pierre. So it's not just we shouldn't simply think of warehouses and e-commerce companies when it comes to this, should we?
You're perfectly right. We have clients who are, for example, a hairdresser who now have a website, and you can make an appointment directly on the website. So this is saving some time for people inside the business. In many restaurants, you can use a software to make a reservation now. So the idea is to look at your own business, to look at how you can improve the client experience. So we know the new generation, for example, the hairdresser is a good example. Again, a very small business. The owner realized that the new generation, they prefer not to make a phone call to make a reservation. They prefer to do it directly online. So it's possible now to do that. So she's not only saving some time, but she's increasing client experience for this generation who prefer to do it online than taking the phone. So it's very important to think about how you can increase or improve what you do for your client.
And just those simple changes, I think you're absolutely correct in talking about that hairdresser example. It is the expectation of um, younger clients coming up through the system that they want that type of efficiency, and think about perhaps not having a receptionist, or having that a person do something differently, maybe call back clients, or whatever it is. It is a good example to help businesses measure their efficiency. Pierre, one of the things that BDC is recommending is to use a new business performance measurement tool. Can you tell us about this?
We just released yesterday for Small Business Week a new tool that is free. It's on our website at bdc.ca. And it's very simple to use. It takes only a few minutes. You need three numbers: your total profit, your total revenue, and the total payroll. By giving those three numbers, you will get a small report explaining where you position your business with every other business in your sector. So the back office, if I can say, from this tool is the million companies in Canada. It's based on the Statistic Canada data. So when you enter your number, you will have the system is going to compare your situation with everybody else in your own sector. So you will be able to see if you are a champion, if you are, way close to 100%. And well, that would be great. And if that's the case, you can relax and maybe take a glass of wine. Or if you are, below the average, it means that you have a lot of work to do, and the system will send you some advice as well. So this is the first step, I believe. It's to measure yourself, to measure how well you're doing, and that's really a good comparison. It's important to compare ourselves. We often know, we have a feeling how we're doing, but we don't really know if we don't compare with similar businesses. So that's the idea of the tool.
Absolutely. I think sometimes as business owners, we have these assumptions in our heads, but if we're not testing those assumptions, how do you actually know where you stand? We'll start wrapping up in just a few minutes here, Pierre. But I was thinking of some of my opening statements that business owners and managers are feeling a little bit beat up. We went from the pandemic, and that was, for many of these people, Pierre, I know you appreciate this, an outright crisis. And now we've gone from that crisis into all these other changing economic landscape. The best example of that would be the labor shortage in my mind, inflation, and supply chains. You've done so much research over the year, Pierre, which I really do appreciate, and it's such practical. What words of advice or encouragement would you give entrepreneurs during the Small Business Week if they're feeling a little bit exhausted?
Well, I think we are slowly going back to normal. The pandemic was very difficult for many businesses, and like you said, our business environment have changed after that. But slowly, we're going back to normal. Interest rates are increasing, but they will go down when inflation is down, and the economy will, be away from the pandemic. So as we move away from the pandemic, we should go back to normal. So this is, the worst is behind us, really, and the next few months. The economy is not going to be growing at the same pace, but we don't expect a recession. And so we believe that the situation for businesses in the next 24 months is actually going to be easier.
And maybe we'll just wrap up there with that look to 2023, Pierre. I've heard you say many times now that BDC or you specifically are not expecting a recession, but kind of a flattening off of the economy. Can you give us any more details on that? How long you might anticipate that lasts, or what signs we should look at to see if we're emerging, or if we're about to see an uptick at some time in 2023? What should we be looking for?
I think the best thing to look for is inflation, because the economy is performing very well, actually too well. That's why we have high inflation. So high inflation means that the Bank of Canada is increasing interest rate to slow down the economy to reduce inflation. When inflation is going down in a serious way, the Bank of Canada is going to be stop increasing interest rate, and that's where when we will know that we're going really in the good direction. So this is we are hoping, like you said today, we're going to have new numbers of inflation. We believe that inflation is going to go down slowly, and at one point, interest rate will stop increasing. They will even go down when inflation will be back in, let's say in around 3%. So that's what we should watch for is the level of inflation and how it's going down.
Just a quick follow up on that, and then we'll wrap up here. It seems like we're in such a unique space. So if we think back to other periods that might have predated recessions, we would have seen, drops in employment, or we would have seen other signs like this. Does it? Am I right in thinking we're in such a unique time, and that even in this risk of an inflation, we've got such high employment levels and a labor shortage that seems to be persistent.
Yeah, but you're perfectly right. Is because actually the economy was overeating, and that's why we have pressure on price. That's why we have inflation. But you're perfectly right. The unemployment rate is at an historic low, so people have jobs. It's 500,000 more jobs today than before the pandemic. So the economy is performing very well. But inflation has a lot of negative impact on business, but also on people, especially on low-income people. That's why the Bank of Canada wants to reduce inflation. And the way to do it is to slow down the economy by increasing interest rate. So we are in a unique situation where we have to slow down the economy to make sure that inflation is not getting out of hand. So, but it should, we should be able to do it before without creating a recession. That's the idea. So that we should, we are pretty confident that the Bank of Canada is going to succeed. We already see the economy slowing down. Inflation is already improving, so we are in a good path.
That so-called soft landing. Let's hope it let's hope it comes. Listen, Pierre, I want to thank you very much for spending some time with us, and I want to thank everyone at BDC for preparing Small Business Week and this new research, and especially those recommendations that you have in this new report. I urge people to go to bdc.ca to look up that report. Very easy to digest and very practical. So I guarantee if you spend some time with that report, if you're a business owner or manager, you're going to come away with some concrete ideas how to improve your business. Once again, thank you, Pierre. Thanks to everyone at BDC.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, as we're wrapping up, I just want to remind everyone to stay connected to Ottawa Business Journal by visiting our website, obj.ca. There are daily exclusive news headlines there. Also, the Ottawa Board of Trade is doing all sorts of great work. You can visit them at ottawabot.ca. Of course, we produce a lot of events with the Board of Trade. Use their calendar to check out when those events are coming up. Some big ones, example, our Best Ottawa Business Awards coming up on November 24th. That's to celebrate our CEO of the Year, our Lifetime Achievement, CFO of the Year, Newsmaker, and lots of other boards. So circle that one for sure. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye, everyone.